Hi, everyone. Welcome back to CNN Money Switzerland. I'm Ana Maria Montero with your latest headlines this Wednesday. Kicking it off tonight in Switzerland, where the Federal Council announced a full border opening today with neighbors Germany, Austria, and France for the 15th of June. Borders with Italy, however, do remain closed. The Swiss government also announced that it's drafting an ordinance allowing it to test the coronavirus tracing app, as well as plans to extend state aid to the culture sector. In addition, a 350 million Swiss franc rescue package was announced to support Switzerland's struggling professional soccer and ice hockey leagues, with the stipulation that the money should not be used to pay the salaries of high-earning players. The government also announced a further 150 million francs for other sports, including those with large numbers of participants. Meanwhile, EU member states also met today and unveiled an action plan to save their summer season. Desperate to lift restrictions and to get visitors pumping much-needed cash into stricken economies, Europe is focused on reopening internal borders, safely firing up its hospitality sector, and reviving rail, road, air, and sea connections. EU member states have also agreed to protocols to ensure tracing apps work across borders so that citizens can be warned of a potential infection with coronavirus while traveling within the bloc. Meanwhile, students across Switzerland returned to school this week after 2 months of coronavirus lockdown. And while each canton sets its own rules for their districts, they do share one overriding theme. There's nothing old school about education post-pandemic. All across Switzerland, thousands of students returned to class this week. In some cantons, this means resuming a full-time schedule, while in others, the children are divided into groups that alternate days in an effort to limit the number of pupils in the class at any given time. They do, however, share other post-pandemic regulations inside the classrooms, like keeping the desk at a distance of 2 meters and self-cleaning the common areas. In this secondary school in Geneva, the cafeteria was turned into a meeting room for teachers, as students are not allowed to stay in the building during breaks. Signs serve as reminders of just how many people are allowed in at one time.
Usually students are moving from one class to another. And at the moment the students are not moving anymore and the teachers are. It was a lot of work, but it was nice because it's real school. The only real problem is that some of our students are living in France, and some borders are closed. So they arrive very late because of the difficulty in crossing the borders in the afternoon.
Soft sports are also allowed in the school, but only the ones that guarantee social distance between the students, a precaution that must also be maintained by the teachers.
What is a bit different now is you can't get closer to the pupils, and you, for example, if someone has got a question, you can't get closer, and you have to think about all you're doing, in fact. For example, when I enter the classroom, I think, okay, I should clean the keyboard, I should clean the screen, and that's what it's different. But teaching to them now, it's okay.
So far, it seems students have not been put off by the post-pandemic regulations.
The general feeling of the population is quite good here in Geneva because we have less than 2 or 3% people who don't come at school. It means that on 50,000 children, there is maybe less than 500 children who don't come. Some people, some family who are still really afraid of coming back to school, but it's few people.
And while the number of coronavirus cases in Switzerland continues to decrease, the feeling of optimism only grows that before the start of summer break, students across cantons will be able to return to the school life they knew before the outbreak. In other news, Bitcoin Suisse chairman NIKOLAJSEN joins my colleague Olivia Chang to share his takeaways from the 2020 Bitcoin halving and why the zoo company is raising capital during the coronavirus pandemic.
Nicholas, thank you so much for joining us right now. There was, of course, a lot of chatter, a lot of speculation in the lead up to the Bitcoin halving. Now that we have seen that, was it really worth all the talk?
Bitcoin halvings, and I've been sitting through 3 of these, are a little bit like New Year's Eve. Very talked about, very hyped, but when you actually get at it, what changed. A date, right? Nothing big. In the Bitcoin halving sense, that is the same. What we saw and what was very nice to see was that the halving occurred without any technical challenges. The miners did not all of a sudden disappear, thus making the network reliable. Everything shifted over perfectly, and but the long-term effects of the halvings are of course yet to be seen, because now, well, supply is half, and if demand for Bitcoin will stay the same, yes, then this will probably spark off a positive Bitcoin market over the next years. That's at least what happened in the past.
Mm-hmm. And so you said we've already unwrapped this present and not much has changed for now, but we have to wait to see what comes in the future.
It's a present that will keep giving, I like to say.
What can we take away from the 2020 halving that maybe we have not seen in the previous halvings before?
I think the effects of the halving are yet to be determined. We know, of course, that the effect of the halving is that the inflation rate of Bitcoin is halved, but what effects that will have on the market, how much of this was priced into the market, how much was not priced into the market, these are only things that we can make a post-mortem on maybe in 6 months. We can take away from it that Bitcoin once again proved that it works, that the incentivization system of Bitcoin continues to work, that the halving went smoothly, and I think we can probably also still conclude that Bitcoin is a very immature market, so probably the full effects of the halving are not priced into the market. At least that's my assumptions. We didn't see big movements before and after the halving take place, so not many people, I would say, speculated on the halving. But for sure, as I said, it's a present that will keep giving, and we will see in the next half year if this constriction of supply will also impact price.
So let's actually take a look at Bitcoin Swiss. You've just announced a funding round, and this is a very interesting timing, I have to say. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're in the middle of a partial lockdown, slowly easing our way out of it. Why have you chosen to announce that in the midst of all this?
So our Series A capital raise was planned quite a while ago. The real question for us in March were, should we now delay the announcement of our Series A due to the pandemic, or should we not? And we chose to go ahead with the capital raise regardless of the pandemic. We think it's a strong offering, and while we realize that many investors would potentially be scared, we also had a very big waiting list for people who were interested in participating when an opportunity arose. And looking already in March at also our financial numbers, it was clear that our revenues were not seriously affected by the pandemic, so we chose to go ahead. And since we already have a subscription to our Series A of almost 50%, I'm also happy to say that this was a gamble which paid off. We were, of course, nervous, but it seems to not have affected the appetite of our investors in any meaningful way. So,
coronavirus has put many challenges our way. An increase in cybercrime is just one of them. Hospitals, medical research centers, and drug companies are increasingly becoming targets. But in this special Back to Work interview, Sergey Belasov, CEO of Acronis and founder of Schaffhausen Institute of Technology, tells Hannah Wise that as lockdowns force criminals online, his Swiss-based cybersecurity company is no winner when it comes to coronavirus.
Criminals are quarantined, they cannot leave their places, but they can come in, and then also you are always at home. It's quite inconvenient, right? And there is lots of police which is observing what's happening on the streets. Even more inconvenient, but criminals come to your computers. Criminals are themselves investing in cybercrime because that's the only way for them to make money. And that is not targeting businesses only, it's also targeting individuals and small businesses.
Do you think, though, that the reason that many people don't protect themselves is the cost? You know, it's fine for a big company to be able to afford cybersecurity and whole teams to protect.
No, it's a culture. It's a culture. It's a culture, just like with, for example, doing regular inhalations or wearing a mask when you are sick or when you have somebody sick, or washing your hands very often. It's a culture saying some people would wash their hands once a month, some people once a day, some people once an hour. Do see significant adoption now. People are getting serious because now, for the first time in the history of mankind, for the first time since, you know, humans were in caves or you know, on palm trees, people are really completely digital. Everything's done digitally. If your computer is off, we cannot even have this interview.
How has it been for you to put your employees, you know, for them to work from home?
We are a digital company. For us, it's much more important not where you work from, but what is your productivity. I do think the major challenge with us coming back to work, which is what is going to happen over the next 1, 2, 3 months, is that people need to follow the right cadence. They have to be aware as that the wave can come back at any point, and they have to not relax, because we've been very lucky. We don't have any people seriously sick in the company, and out of 1,500 employees globally, we only had, I don't know, 3 documented cases of people sick. Very small number, but you know, now that people come back, that's when the challenge is.
And what is your mission when everything's back open and everyone's back to work, whether that is in a home office or it is in a real office? What are you looking forward to most? Where's your business going next?
Our mission is written behind me. It's cyber protection for all data applications and systems. Safe, you know, again, safe, accessible, private, authentic, and secure. It's a very boring mission, but apparently what we've learned, especially in the current days, without making sure that your systems work, you cannot operate.
So do you consider yourself then one of the winners of the coronavirus?
I don't think anybody could be a winner of the coronavirus. I do think, you know, it's a complicated situation, but I do think it's a relatively mild way in which humanity was reminded of the importance of the hygiene, at least the biological hygiene. This virus is dangerous, but it could have been 10 times more dangerous. I hope that it will spread into digital world and people will be thinking about making sure that their devices are protected, because if something like this happens again, and it will, you know, Bill Gates predicted this virus 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it will happen again. The humanity is living in a very dense conditions. People are traveling a lot. Everything spreads immediately. It took bubonic plague several hundred years to reach from you know, China, where it appeared, I believe, to Europe. It took maybe several days for this virus, or several weeks, or several months to reach all kinds of destinations all over the world. And when it will happen again, we have to be ready. We have to be able to operate completely digitally. And so that, I think, is a great opportunity for us, and also a great responsibility.
And that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, you can find all of our content online. cnnmoney.ch is the place to go. And you can always stay in touch with us via all of our social media platforms. We do look forward to hearing from you. Take care, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.